This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Hello and welcome to Tracks from the Edge, Trek FM show in which we provide audio commentary for all 15 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. I'm Mike.
And I'm Max.
And today we are looking at episode 14 of Star Trek Discovery, The War Without, The War Within. Or is it the other way around?
I thought it was The War Without the War Within.
Okay, so I got it right. Good. We are going to be watching this episode along with talking about it, and you can do the same when you're listening. Just head on over to the app of your choice, or whatever has been sort of mandated by your region, and skip over that company logo, whether it's CBS or Netflix or Crave, and we're going to give a countdown from the black screen before the previously on Star Trek Discovery segment. And we can all start this up at the same time and watch it all together, or you can just listen on your own while you're on the L on the way to work in the middle of a blizzard. You
can do your thing.
You can do whatever you want. It's your choice. It's your choice. Mm-hmm. All right. So Max, if you're ready.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. We are going to start this up in 3, 2, 1, start. Previously on Star Trek Discovery, and there's Ash Tyler, and he's having some trouble coming to terms with the fact that he's a Klingon, and he's talking to, there's Saru, talking to L'Rell about Ash Tyler, and after no Tyler last episode, it's going to be like the all Tyler show today, or so it seems. Here we see Philippa Georgiou, the Empress, killing some captains and throwing them into some... Did you notice the TIE fighter sound effect in this clip when you see him fall into that little reactor thing?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. Very 80s, I mean, not just because, it's a TIE fighter, but because they would like do that. Like, how many TIE fighter sound effects do you hear in the Transformers, the movie? You know what I mean?
I think the answer is 7.
I think
7.
I think you're probably right. So they're back home 9 months later, and here we are, and they're putting the U back on. I like that. It's funny. I don't know. Yeah,
they're really quick on, like, I understand, like, the first time where they like replace the U with the I, because they're like, if they see the wrong letter, they're gonna shoot us. But like, they get back to this universe and they're like, we got to get that I gone because people will laugh at us.
It just speaks to the efficiency of Starfleet,
I guess.
Yeah.
So it sort of speaks to their superficiality. We don't want to have that tacky eye on our ship.
Either that, or they're just kind of have that like obsessive compulsive thing going on. It's like until we get that thing changed, we gotta,
Saru can't sleep. He's just like, we gotta clean up. We got chip wrappers everywhere. It's just a mess.
Mm-hmm.
gotta fix everything. The mirror universe really set us back a lot of ways.
Which sort of goes against a lot of what you see in this episode in terms of the way the uniforms are portrayed. Because as with one exception, I don't think we ever see their uniforms like undone, like the zippers unzippered or anything like that. And yet in this episode, like everything is unzipped, you know? And I kind of get, well, here's my headcanon for that. I think the real reason is because the director was probably like, they've been going through a lot, you know, maybe they wouldn't be so formal. But in my headcanon, the reason is because Lorca was very by the book in that regard. And, you know, he was a real stickler for uniforms, right? And, Saru being the first officer, you know, maybe trying to gain favor with the troops, or maybe because he feels like he's one of them or something like that. He's, you know, a little more lax in his command style. You know, I mean, I've certainly experienced this in work environments or whatever, where, you know, when the big boss is there, everyone, you know, is nice and proper or whatever, but then when, you know, one of the assistants is in charge, it's like, you know, party on the disco. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in my view, like the uniforms are a reflection of the ship not being in top shape. Like they're on auxiliary power. The heating is probably all messed up. So they're probably just trying to stay comfortable.
Oh, it could be too. So, okay, she's trying to explain her actions to Saru, and I like how she's like, I could give you all of this BS, but really, you know, it was an emotional decision, which, you know, it's something that I try not to do, but yeah. And I guess, you know, we were
it was a
talking
dumb
last
thing
week,
to
like,
do, by the way.
What was that?
It was a dumb thing to do.
Well, yeah, it was a dumb thing to do. But, you know, it's kind of weird now, because like last week we were saying, like, what do you do with her? Do you throw her in the brig? You know, do you send her to her quarters or whatever? And I guess they kind of came with this sort of like middle ground for now, where it's like, I guess we'll put her in her quarters, but we'll lock the door behind her, you know?
Yeah. I think it's kind of nuts. I don't know. There's a part of me that's like kind of frustrated by the whole like echoes of fate concept that they keep referencing, because it's like you know, people keep doing things that seem sort of convenient. Like there was a Lorca, and now there's not a Lorca. Lorca's death seems to be paralleled in both universes, and Giorgio died, and now Giorgio's back, and it's like, did Michael actually have a choice? Because I mean, like, the universes are somehow linked. Maybe like none of these characters have free will, and they're all just obeying a script. Of course they are. That's a problem.
Yeah, but I think maybe that kind of like speaks to the sort of like metaphorical nature of the mirror universe, you know? I don't know. It's...
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's more of a storytelling thing than sort of like a commentary on fate. I don't know.
Yeah, my only concern is that like when they rub up against the concept of fate, it makes it really hard to argue that they are characters with their own sense of agency.
I mean, they did bring that up, but I also kind of think that, like, I don't know. I'm guessing that the writers would sort of fall down on the side of Burnham, where it's like, no, it's not fate. It's just the way things are, you know? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so here Saru is talking to Tyler, and they're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Tyler, and I don't know. There's the sort of like the terminology which they use in this scene is interesting, because it almost seems like they're trying to draw like real world parallels here, by saying like, I forget what they say. It's not like, is it like species reassignment or something like that? Or no, I forget what they say. But like, I don't know. There's a couple times where they use like certain words in order to describe, like they say like he's presenting as Tyler and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. It's strange the way that they chose to sort of like handle this. But I've got to think it was intentional. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. Like, I find it a little bit, this kind of a high wire act, because they're like, they're dealing with things that are, you could argue like that underneath the surface of the species transition, there's like a metaphor for being trans, and I don't find that comforting because then it's kind of like, oh yeah, the conflict between who he was and who he is why he tried to kill Michael, and why she breaks up with him, and it's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's not exactly a one-to-one representation there, and yeah, it gets into some troubling territory. I don't know. Maybe they just felt like, well, this is what the terminology would be, like based on what we use today. But I don't know. So, okay, here we are with Admiral Cornwell coming on board and taking over the ship. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's kind of interesting because it's like, obviously, these people have been through hell with, 9 months of getting their butts kicked in this war. So they need to sort of like come up with a way of safely securing, things which they're not sure about. But I guess, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily that dire of a situation. I mean, yeah, they saw Discovery blow up and they're like, what is this? And I can see boarding the ship with like, guns drawn and everything, and doing that thing which I think is really cool, where Cornwell's like, I'm going to transfer command to myself right now, but then instead of maybe doing like a forced mind meld on Saru, maybe just saying like, hey guys, what's the deal? But
yeah, like I find the interruption of the forced mind meld, I find it very comforting, because I did not want to deal with another scene of like, no, we're really us. Like, yeah. I really like that Sarek's is like, all right, let's just cut through all of that nonsense and let's just get right to the point where I realize what's going on. And because like the audience is way ahead of us, let's just get to where the audience is as fast as possible.
That's true. From a storytelling standpoint, it does have a certain amount of efficiency. So looking at these credits, there are two names which are missing now: Craig Sweeney and Nicholas Meyer. Very, very sad, but whatever. It was a good run of 13 episodes where Nicholas Meyer was on the writing staff and didn't write any scripts, but I'm sure he contributed to a lot of stuff, and obviously was there in the early days or whatever. But kind of disappointing that we didn't get an episode written by Meyer. But I mean, I don't know. All signs point to him developing this other show, so hopefully we'll see that soon. Written by Lisa Randolph, who wrote the episode 2 weeks ago. I think that's interesting because like we talked about like, oh, there's no Tyler here, but there was a lot of Tyler like the week before, and it almost feels like this is sort of like I don't know if you'd call it sequel or whatever, a continuation of the story from 2 weeks ago. So it's like she's expanding on what she herself wrote a couple weeks back. So that's kind of cool. And directed by David Solomon. That name may be familiar to some people because he is he's directed a ton of stuff, but he's very prominent in the Joss Whedon sphere I believe he was the producing director on Buffy for the last few seasons, and he was also the main director guy, I think, throughout all of Dollhouse. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So we just saw Cornwell disintegrate Lorca's cookies. Which
yeah, she blows up some cookies because she's like, oh man, my ex-boyfriend wasn't alive. He died before we last slept together. That's messed up. This is a really dark situation. I'm going to shoot some cookies.
You know, we all have ways of dealing with anger, you know?
I don't know. If I went through like a bad situation like that, I'd just eat the cookies.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably what my response would be. Anybody want some cookies?
I'm going to have some of these. I'm going to eat this whole bowl of cookies. You can't have any of these are my cookies. I slept with a Mirror Universe guy. That's messed up.
Yep.
It's messed up. So yeah, now they're talking about the war. I find it weird that like the war is basically like almost over and like almost everyone in the Federation's dead. Like Starfleet's been like wiped out. Like I don't see this. I don't see this resolving in a way that makes sense from the history of the series as we know it.
Well, I guess we don't really know what went on during the Klingon War at all. You know, it is sort of like an undocumented time. The thing about it, if we're going to be talking about how this ties into the larger series or whatever, this is the big problem that I have with this episode, right? Is almost the entire episode is constructed in such a way that it's like, we can't let anyone know about this mirror universe, because if anyone finds out about this, it would be chaos. Like it would just, I mean, people couldn't deal. We'd have people trying to go over to the mirror universe all the time and do all this stuff. Don't let anyone know that we've got a, mirror universe defector on board, because if that gets out, people are just going to freak, like all of this stuff. Like the entire episode is sort of based around that concept. And I really feel like the only reason why that's there is to give an explanation as to why everyone up until now assumed that Mirror Mirror was the first encounter with the mirror universe. Because when people find out about the mirror universe, like 11 years after this show or whatever, 12 years after this show, none of what they say happens. People don't freak out. People aren't trying to go to the mirror universe all the time or any of that stuff, It's just like, whatever. That's weird that there's another universe out there, which is just like ours, except where, Spock has a goatee. I don't know. That it just seems like a lot of, I don't know. I don't know if you'd call it shoe leather or what, but a long way to go in order to just kind of explain why, it feels like that could almost be done in like one line. And I mean, it's true, because I mean, I sort of like had this feeling, after it, and then they talked about it on After Trek, not in the context of like, this is why you don't hear about it on the original series, but in the context of, why they did it in the story. And, they said like, oh, look, they say, if people knew about this, they would try to go to the other universe to find, dead loved ones or whatever and bring them back. And that's literally what Burnham does. And I heard that and I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. That is literally what Burnham did. But I think she's the exception, not the rule. And I don't know. It seems strange that this would be everyone's reaction to that.
Well, like the idea that like you hear about a mirror universe where like everyone has a doppelganger and like some people who are dead in our universe are alive in theirs and some people who are dead in theirs are alive in ours. Like, and you think, okay, well, a whole bunch of people just died in the past like 9 months. That really makes me think that's a very tempting thought. And in a different time when a lot of people aren't dying or haven't died in like 5 years, or like one person who was close to you who died in the past 5 years. You're like, yeah, there's a mirror universe where he might be alive, but I mean, it's also a pretty awful place. I mean, it's the worst. It's the bad part of every city. It's not a good place to go. Even if there's a doppelganger of somebody who you lost, it's probably not worth it. Like in that environment, it would be different. So I think that like you can make an argument that it's plausible that they would say all of that in this context, and still like at the end of the day, we know that wouldn't happen, because if you hear there's a universe where people who died might still be alive, and you also hear, yeah, they might also be like cannibals and like psycho murderers. So, not really the same thing.
Yeah, no, I guess I see your point there. It's true. Maybe it's one of those things where they're like, this is going to be classified for 5 years or, whatever, for 37 years. And then, you'll be able to look at the records after the fact or something.
I could hear I could believe it being totally like like we classified it. It's super crazy, and then when it happens to Kirk and the gang, like he gets back and he's like, "Okay, everybody, get on the phone. I'm going to tell you the craziest story," and he tells a whole bunch of people, and somebody's like, dude, I don't think you're supposed to talk about that. And he's like, what? Why? And then they tell him the whole story about Discovery, and he's like, what? That's crazy. You guys are silly. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's true. That could be another. I mean, here they're like very careful. Like, don't let any. Like, they threaten that one guy with treason. The transporter chief guy. I keep on thinking, like, as this episode progresses, I keep on thinking about like the events like through his perspective. Like at the end of the episode, spoilers, where Giorgio comes out and they're like, "Your new captain, Giorgio." Like, I can only think like that guy's like, I know what's and like when he's in the mess hall, like these people are now, and everyone's like, "I can't believe Giorgio is dead. Can you believe that?" And he's just in the corner like, "Yeah, I know, that's so weird, guys."
I like to imagine that he looks over at Michael periodically and just goes like, how often are weird things like this happening? How much does she know that I don't know?
Is Saru from the Mirror Universe too? I mean, can someone fill me in on this stuff?
Am I dead? Am I a ghost? How would I even know? Crazy times. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Tyler feels bad about murdering people, mm-hmm. and and Stamets is like, yeah, good, feel bad about that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I know that he's Starfleet, but like I still would have liked him to punch him.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, I guess everyone sort of like, deals with grief differently and everything. I think, I don't have any problem with Stamets' whole reaction to that. I guess I think it's weird. And I guess, but this is something that people do, I mean, I think it was probably not the best idea in the world for Tyler to go up to him and be like, "Hey, man, sorry I killed your boyfriend," but I mean, that's like one of those things where you're like, let's give that just a couple days before we approach Stamets, and you know what I mean? But
yeah, maybe 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but I don't know. It speaks to sort of the idea, and well, maybe they're not doing this, because it seems like they're setting up the whole like, he can't be on this ship. Like, look at this. You've got Stamets, whose boyfriend he killed. You've got Burnham, who he dated after eating her mentor and sort of like mother figure. You've got, all these people who feel betrayed by him since he was, sort of like the enemy. But then you do have that scene in the mess hall where all of his friends are like, look, we understand that this wasn't your fault, and we are here for you as your friend. And like, I can see that for sure, and it speaks to sort of, the goodness of people and the Star Trek ideal and all that stuff. But, you do also have the scene with Stamets and the scene with Burnham where it's like, we understand on a rational level that this is not your fault and that you're going through a hard time and that you need help. But at the same time, we can't personally deal with this because you've destroyed our lives, And
yeah, sure.
and just like the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm thinking about like, looking forward, like, is Ash Tyler going to be in season 2? Like, I really don't see how, from a practical standpoint, you can keep him aboard this ship without having all sorts of turmoil. I mean, just think about it in like an office setting with much, much less dire circumstances. Usually you're like, let's transfer that person to another branch. And
HR.
then it'll be okay. Yeah, So I don't know. It seems weird, like thinking about it practically, for them to keep him on this ship. Like maybe in a couple scenes here or whatever, Tilly's going to say like he'll never fly for Starfleet again. Maybe he's probably going to end up in a lab or something like that. Like, I could definitely see that not happening. Like, I could see, Starfleet saying like, no, he's a good guy, and, we understand the situation, and he deserves, a second chance or whatever. But maybe we should transfer him to Enterprise. I don't know, some other vessel.
Yeah. I don't buy any of it. Like it all seems very ridiculous to me. Like an experienced doctor scanned him, found nothing wrong. And it turned out that he was actually a Klingon that had been drastically surgically altered to look exactly like a human down to the cellular level. That is huge. And the idea that we're taking it like on the evidence that we have available to us that he's totally human and he's totally a guy named Ash Tyler seems like a humongous stretch to me, and I wouldn't buy it at all. They didn't see anything before, and now they're convinced that he's fine. I don't buy it.
But maybe Saru's just convinced. Maybe like they're saying, he will end up in a lab for the rest of his life because most people wouldn't be. I don't know.
I wouldn't trust him at all. I'd be like, no, let's sedate him and keep him in a comatose state until we can give him to a lab, and so somebody can figure out how they managed to do this. And maybe once they figure out exactly how it was done and they can confirm that he totally is not a like psycho killer Klingon who wants to kill everyone on the ship, then maybe we can, let him out of the lab and go, maybe be a farmer or something. Who cares? But not until like a team of specialists, like surrounded by like a CERN level of like investment into figuring this out, can confirm that he is actually what he seems to be. I would not trust him with a spork.
Well, I think maybe, the solution would be the same thing that they're doing right here with Giorgio, confine him to quarters, lock the door, but, still let him, don't put him in the brig like Laurel. You can, kind of let him hang out in his room and, watch Netflix and stuff like that, just for the time being. You know what I mean?
Give him a CBS All Access subscription.
Yeah, so that he can watch I Love Lucy reruns or whatever else is on there.
The Good Fight.
The Good Fight. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the way they're treating him. They're being way too nice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably would have had the same. Like you can sympathize with someone, and even believe that they're, at heart, not the murderous individual who they used to be, literally, but still take precautions,
Yeah, he killed Culber, and it wasn't even like a plan. It was like a reflexive action.
Right. He literally just snapped his neck, and
he just had a bad moment, and he killed a person, and it wasn't really a big deal. Like that wasn't Voke.
Right.
That was him. That was Ash Tyler. So no, I would not trust him.
Right. Yeah. So it's cool that we're seeing this Andorian here as I guess he's an admiral, right? Because he was one of the Mirror Universe dudes, back on the planet in the Mirror Universe, and one of the rebels. It's just kind of cool to see his prime counterpart here like that.
Yeah, I would like one time in one of these shows for somebody to see somebody that they met in the Mirror Universe and just go, oh hey. Oh, yeah, you don't remember. Don't worry.
Yeah. So here they've developed a plan to go to Kronos and mess things up and jump into a cave. And I love how Stamets now, before it's like, wait, you want me to do what with this precision and what? And now he's like, this is easy. Like, I can do it. It's really not that hard. And then he starts like explaining the way the mycelial network, works. He's like, well, in the mycelial network, it's like this, and
like it's an old neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like, every conversation you've ever had on the internet with someone who's done something like one time and then feels that they're an expert on the subject. You know what I mean?
You talk to people on the internet more often than I do.
Yeah. So, here they're planning this out, but they just established that all their spores are dead, so they need to make new spores. And get ready for a show. When he said that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be awesome. And it was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. I mean, and
he's got a spore genesis device concept going on.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking of, and that kind of like speaks to this episode, which is like, out of all the episodes of Discovery, this is the one where like literally nothing happens. It's all people talking to each other, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. It's just, uncharacteristic for this show. And it really feels like this episode is not at all about, really advancing the plot in like grand sweeping gestures. It's more about like putting all of the pieces in place for next week's episode, which is bound to be, bonkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of stuff's going to blow up, I imagine. Going to be some space battles.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy stuff. Yeah, this is the domestic episode where people deal with their relationships, and
it's like the reverse family.
Yeah, it's in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's awkward. There's a lot of time given to Giorgio, like, hey, let's see what this Giorgio can offer us. And then of course there's the ending, which is nuts.
Yeah, but I love it. I mean, that's definitely my favorite part. But here she is convincing Sarek, who apparently has a lot of pull in the Federation. I mean, I guess, he's a very trusted advisor, in wartime and everything like that. But he's a wartime conciliary, right? Just like
I guess so.
Just like I can't remember, was Robert Duvall a wartime conciliary or not?
I think that he was not a wartime conciliary.
Okay, yeah, that was the problem.
That was the point.
Okay, all right. So he's like the anti-Robert Duvall. But
Sarek is a lot unlike Robert Duvall in that way.
Yes. And so she's saying like, hey, and I mean, I guess we'll see how this plan plays out, right? But I like the idea of it. I do. So anyway, yeah. So here Sarek's having a heart-to-heart with Burnham, which, is cool because like we've seen him do this with Spock on occasion and everything like that, You see the softer side of Sarek. See that he's really kind of at his heart a romantic,
Sure. I find it annoying that they keep making Vulcans emotional.
But they do this with Sarek on the original series and stuff like that.
I know, and I find it annoying. I don't like that Star Trek has these characters that are defined by their logic, and they always habitually every single time try to make them emotional because they just can't deal with a character that's logical. It's like, oh God, what do we do with a character who's logical? How do we give him a storyline if everything he does makes sense?
Yeah.
It's just dumb. But that's what it is.
It speaks to it's very meta because it speaks to the flaw in humans' emotions by showing the flaws in the way that Star Trek writers handle characters without them.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Well, maybe that's the intent. Maybe that's what Roddenberry was thinking when he created the character of Spock. He's like, I am going to show the superiority of Vulcans with their logic by creating a character which emotional humans don't know how to deal with.
Yes, I don't disagree. I just find it frustrating that they keep using them. It's like, if you can't write a good Vulcan character, just don't have him show up.
But I think they do a good job for the most part. I mean, certainly the original series had that problem again and again and again. But, yeah. I don't know. I'd be curious to see like who is the least emotional Vulcan in the series. Like I almost would say Tuvok.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So here, Tilly is trying to convince Burnham to talk to Tyler, help him out, be a good friend.
Yeah, she's like, he's going through some hard times. He needs some support in order to get through this difficult time in his life. And Tilly's going like, he didn't mean it. That wasn't him. He's not that guy. And Burnham is like, yeah, he tried to kill me.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tilly does say like, if nothing else, he needs closure. Like you need to go to him, even if it's just to say goodbye or whatever it is. So, yeah. She does. I mean, I guess this is Tilly's way of advancing that plot because you knew it was going to happen sooner or later, and it's good to have it happen in this episode before the episode where everything hits the fan.
Yeah. It's just that frustrating thing that happens where like there's the potential storyline of Ash Tyler, and it seems kind of dumb and lazy, and they do a different thing, and they make him an abusive ex-boyfriend, and I have to think, is this worse?
But is it really? But then you get into the whole like, but it's not really him thing, right?
No, it is. It's him.
Okay, I don't think that it's really him. But
It doesn't matter.
At the same time,
whatever.
I can totally see Burnham being like, I don't want to be with you because of all that stuff.
It doesn't matter what he was at that point versus what he is now. Like, it doesn't matter that he's not drinking anymore. Like, he was that guy. Like, that happened. Like, you can't undo the events that occurred. So, like, regardless of how he feels now, like, that's a thing that happened, and that's part of who he is. Even if he's not ever going to do it again, you can't undo that.
It's slightly different in this scenario in that, he literally is a different person now,
Not necessarily. No, because who he is a consequence of what he was. Like, if he is, like, if Ash Tyler is now a composite identity of like the artificial Ash Tyler created and imprinted onto Voke's brain, and the vestiges of Voke floating around in that consciousness, whatever it is, it results in this person. So it doesn't really change anything. Even if like he's a different person, he's still all of those people.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's our big action beat for the episode.
Fungus times.
Yep.
He should name these machines.
World engines, isn't that what they're called in Man of Steel?
Sure. I thought those were just like giant drums that banged on a planet until like everything was super, super flat.
I don't know. I mean, they were like terraforming things. I think maybe that was just the first step in the process.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
So they got their spores. So he could have just done this the whole time. He made a big deal about all of his spores being gone, and it's like, oh, I can just grow more spores.
Well, but they talk about like, well, this is a radical procedure. Like this, it's very possible that this won't work. And they said something about like, I think it was his partner, the other scientist dude who was on the other ship that died, where he's like, he wanted to kill this because he wanted to control the spores or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So here we are. Here's the scene, the confrontation. Well, not. I mean, I don't mean that in the whatever, but in the literal sense, like, Burnham confronting Tyler. It's an interesting scene, the way that it plays out. I mean, Tyler, like. I mean, I guess, there's the whole thing where he's like, come on, we should still be together. And she's like, nah. And he's like, oh, man, see, this is all about you because your parents were killed by Klingons and now you're dating a Klingon. And, I mean, luckily she's like...
At that point, you go like, "Oh, we are so done."
Yeah, that was weird. I was like, "Boy, I can't." Like, I did not think that they were gonna, And I guess there is that tendency to sort of latch on to something and blame the other person, but in this particular instance, you'd think that maybe he'd just be like, okay, this one's on me, sorry, but Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that shows that Ash Tyler is not a good person.
That could be. I mean, yeah.
And maybe not a person, but like 3 dudes.
That could be too. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck for Burnham. It's like, first time in my life I'm going to get involved with someone. And it turns out that this guy was actually another guy with 2 personalities, implanted. And now I could see her being like, you know what? This dating thing is just really, really way more complicated than I thought it would be.
Yeah. If this is what dating is, then it's really not worth it. She's just got like the worst luck ever.
Yeah.
Or on some level, like she knew like something was up with this guy and that it would definitely blow up in her face, and that's really what she was looking for. Like she was looking for a relationship that had like an end point in sight, and she could see this dude and he was sweating when nothing bad was happening, and he was saying weirdly cryptic things about secrets and shame, and it's like, yeah, I could see this blowing up in my face in a way that would not be my fault. That's a good relationship to get into.
I kind of think that that's not what was going on, but
yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that's what's going on.
Yeah, but this is like kind of, this type of scene along with the Stamets scene, is why I think it would be weird if they were to leave him on the ship next season, because even if something happens next week and Tyler ends up saving Stamets and Burnham or whatever, and somehow there is some sort of redemption where it's like, you're a good guy, Tyler, like it's still there's a difference between you're a good guy, Tyler, and we want to hang out with you all the time. You can still have the whole like, thanks for saving my life. That makes up for the time when you almost killed me. But I still think that maybe you should, look for work on another ship. You know what I mean? Especially since he's security. That seems like a time bomb waiting to go off, literally, right? I mean,
I think it would be cool if he like had a little outpost and like watched over Fungus Planet.
Yeah, okay.
Like if he was in charge of Fungus Planet security, that would be cool,
But then again, Stamets might be like, I don't want him watching my fungus,
Yeah, that's right. You can't even leave this guy in charge of fungus, you guys. I say we put him on ice.
But maybe he'd be a good ambassador to Chrono. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's put him around more Klingons. That's a good crowd.
Yeah.
No. Ash Tyler, he is not to be. You couldn't trust him with a robot dog. I don't like him.
Okay. All right. So, okay, here's where the big plan is implemented. Something that they didn't bother telling anyone. Like, you would think that Cornwell would at least go up to Saru and be like, hey, just a heads up, I'm about to hand the ship over to another person from the mirror universe who in reality is dead in our universe. And poor Saru, man, this guy just cannot catch a break. It's like, he's supposed to be first officer on the Shenzhou and they promote Burnham instead. Then, Burnham ends up being a mutineer and he gets the job as the first officer on Discovery, but his captain is, from the mirror universe, and then he dies, and now finally Saru becomes captain, and then the admiral comes in like a couple days later and is like, well, let's just give the ship to another person from the mirror universe,
Yeah.
I can imagine that this would really sort of mess with Saru's self-esteem, especially after that captain just told you yesterday, like, I ate one of your fellow Kelpians the day before with
and he's
the,
like,
the
what?
woman who jumped over you, from and became first officer on the Shenzhou.
And
like,
I assume that off camera, that's like Saru was like, "What do you mean you ate Kelpians?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know, it's messed up." She like made me pick one, and he's like, "What, you picked the one you ate? That's crazy."
Maybe. I mean, you do get that moment in the hallway where he's like, "You told me that you didn't see us," and she's like, "I was trying to, spare you the whatever," But here, I mean, again, this show, like, putting things in place where it's like, what are they going to do now? Like, I don't know how this is going to play out. I would assume that Giorgio dies. I mean, maybe she's going to end up back in the mirror universe, but I'm guessing she's probably going to die. But it's like, it keeps on going to some really crazy places, which I definitely appreciate. I don't really know where it's going next week, but I am excited to find out.
I hope that it works out. I just there seems to be a desperation for like crazy plot twists that concerns me.
I mean, we've talked about that a lot, throughout the network. I think that there's this sort of philosophy that's how things are on TV now, like everything has a twist, even like Westworld, which, hey, I finished watching, Westworld has some pretty big twists at the end. And it's like, people are kind of like expecting it out of their television now. And almost like, if you don't do that, I don't know, people are almost disappointed by how straightforward things are. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Like, it's become like a part of the storytelling. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's what it is now,
But like, that's the thing. Like, early on, like the idea of like the kind of like twist and turning storylines like you'd see in like Breaking Bad or something, where like, characters get killed and people do things that lead to or unintended consequences, and the story sort of progresses, like in interesting ways because things keep evolving. That's one thing. But like this sort of like 3-card Monty, like shell game where like you sort of keep hiding things and flipping them over and like move elements around in order to deceive people. Like that kind of frustrates me. And like the sudden mirror universe shift, that felt kind of like, shell gamey, like, all right, let's just put that over there and let's do this other thing for a while. And then it's like, oh, Lorca's from the mirror universe. And it's like, oh, okay. Okay, sure, fine. Well, that's okay. I'm okay with that. And now he's gone. Okay, so he's gone, and now so Philippa Giorgio's back, and okay, but now we're back in the regular universe, and Philippa Giorgio's in, like, the mirror universe one. Now she's in charge, and it's like, oh my god, where are you going? But so far it seems like, oh my god, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, although I've always sort of liked the direction that they've gone in. Even when there are times where I'm like, I don't know why they're doing this. And then, like something happens and I'm like, oh, that's what they were doing? Oh, that's pretty cool, And I don't know. I've been very impressed so far. I mean, we'll see what happens next week. We'll see if they stick the landing or not. But I'm definitely intrigued. Anyway, be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. You can find Live from the Edge on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern online with Bruce and Brandy, and that'll be released as a podcast on Tuesday mornings. Then our show, Tracks from the Edge, will be here on Wednesdays, where we provide commentary for every episode. On Thursdays, we'll discuss your feedback with postcards from the Edge, which Amy puts together. That show, if you want to leave feedback for Amy, head on over to the Babel Conference on Facebook and just look for the big envelope, and that's the thread where you can leave your comments. And then, of course, on Friday, you can catch full analysis of Star Trek Discovery on the Edge main show with Brandon. Then to wrap up the week, join us for Notes from the Edge on Saturday with Chris Jones for links to Discovery and the broader franchise. We didn't even mention that they name-dropped Captain Archer in the NX-01 here, but hey, you'll find all of these in the main feed for The Edge and in the Trek.fm master feed. We love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. The best place to do that is the Babel Conference, which is our listeners group on Facebook, and that is where Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for postcards from The Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM, and you can send us an email. Just go to trek.fm/contact and choose to send to a show and select The Edge. We would like to thank our associate producers today, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, and Cornelia Reutner. Thank you very much, everybody. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producer yourself, visit patreon.com/trekfm for all the details. Okay. 14 down, 1 to go. How are they going to wrap this all up? Are they going to do a big supersized episode like with that Westworld finale, you know? We're going to make it like an hour and a half? I don't know. I do know that it's directed by Akiva Goldsman. That makes me very happy, you know? Batman Forever. Woo! So, yeah, exciting times, and we'll see what happens next week. Join us for our finale of Tracks from the Edge. Until then, did we come up with a...
Does it have to be Edge related?
It could be.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.